What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here with your Week 13 NFL Best Bets. In this video, I give you my 5 picks versus the spread, as well as the teaser of the week. So far this season, we are 37-32 versus the spread. We are 8-4 on the teaser, bouncing back last week, and 4-2 a week ago. Overall, 45-36 for this 2021 NFL season. I gotta say this before we start. You have to head over to Patreon. Link is in the description. My Patreon, where I give you my bets each and every week. My NFL bets, from totals to spreads to props and everything else. You will find it. The picks that I'm actually making with my real money. And let me tell you, we did really well last week. So make sure you head over to Patreon. I break the games down. I have an exclusive podcast on there and exclusive content that you will not find here on the channel. So check it out. $5 tier gets you all my bets and more exclusive content. Now, let's break down the best bets versus the spread this week. Kicking it off with the first best bet of the week, I'm taking the Cincinnati Bengals -3. I understand why people may be a little bit nervous to take the Bengals as favorites, but this is also a little bit of a fade on the LA Chargers. I feel like the Chargers have been a tad overrated, especially recently. They had a nice start to the season where I feel like they were doing things that weren't really repeatable. They were due to regress. A lot of fourth down conversions, a lot of big plays, and the new coaching staff, the new style of play were taking teams by surprise. Recently, they've been figured out. Offensively, they're much more vanilla, and a lot of the best defenses in football have been shutting them down. If Justin Herbert doesn't just make plays by himself, this offense does struggle at times. And then defensively, we know their fatal flaw. It is stopping the run. You look at this Chargers team, and we may have projected them a little bit too early to be a contender or a player in the AFC. This year, I'm not sure if they're actually going to get it done and make the playoffs. This is absolutely a massive spot for both teams. The Cincinnati Bengals are in control of their destiny and might even have a chance at this division crown in the AFC North. And when I compare both teams, I think the Bengals are clearly the better team. They're favored here by 3. They're at home. The Chargers are traveling from the West Coast to Ohio for this game. Potentially a little bit colder than the Chargers are used to in this game. The Bengals are a team that have found an identity, something that I don't know the Chargers necessarily have at this moment in time. Their identity right now for the Bengals is Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon is carrying the football 25 plus times a game, and that is allowing the Bengals to protect their one lone weakness, which is their offensive line being overextended. When the offensive line is forced into a lot of drop back pass, where Joe Burrow is consistently dropping back and the defense knows it, they could take advantage, they could get pressure on Joe Burrow, and that's where the disaster begins. But when Joe Mixon is running, when he's running well, it opens up the diversity of this offense, the levels to this offense, where you get more play action, you get more deep shots down the field to Jamar Chase, you get a little bit more diversity within the offense and the passing attack, and it's really tough to cover everything and to defend everything as a defense. The Chargers are the worst run defense in football, and every team that's been able to run on them and has had a successful rushing attack has beaten the Chargers. And I look at a Bengals offense that has really ran the ball recently, can run the ball well, but they also have a passing attack where you can't be necessarily all out aggressive in taking away Joe Mixon, because if you do that and you don't play those two safeties back like Brandon Staley typically does, you're going to get shots over the top to T. Higgins, shots over the top to Jamar Chase. So I see the Bengals consistently moving the ball in all situations here in this game. Defensively, they're a very underrated unit. They have a very capable secondary with no real true weaknesses that you can just attack. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are good players, but I do feel they're a little bit overrated right now, and they don't have a trustworthy third option, whether it's Jared Cook or anybody else. That guy's not really relevant in this offense. The Bengals also have a successful interior run defense with DJ Reader leading the way and an edge pass rush with Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson. And with the Chargers potentially missing 2 to 3 offensive linemen in this game, it could be trouble if Herbert doesn't have a consistent rushing attack with Austin Eckler. I could see Herbert making some plays, extending plays, and making some magic to make this one competitive. But ultimately, I think the Bengals' ability to dictate pace of play with their offense, plus the crowd at home, the way the defense is playing in the secondary, I believe the Bengals are straight up the better, more talented, well-rounded team with less holes. And that's why I'll take the Bengals to win and to cover. My second best bet for Week 13 is the Baltimore Ravens, -4.5 over the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is entirely a fade of the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers, to me, are a team that, yes, their record looks kind of enticing, kind of competitive, but the team has consistently been trending downward, and they're on a downward spiral. And I believe what that is due to is the fact that the defense has consistently declined throughout the season. TJ Watt landed himself on the COVID list, which means he's probably going to be out for this game. And that is a massive loss to this front four and this defense that desperately needs to control the line of scrimmage. When TJ Watt's not out there, this is a completely different defense. And even when he was out there a week ago, the defense still didn't play up to par and play up to its level. Fans are questioning the play of Devin Bush. Fans are questioning the play of their cornerbacks. And when you look at the Baltimore Ravens offense, they can take advantage of a front in Pittsburgh that's actually, in fact, second last versus the run since the game versus Seattle, which was a few weeks ago. That is the quietest thing that's happening to the Steelers right now. Teams can run the ball on them. And when you have a Baltimore Ravens offense that is known for Lamar Jackson and his ability to run the ball on top of Devontae Freeman and the plethora of backs that they can throw at you, you have a Baltimore Ravens team that can be forced into comfortable, possible third down situations where in the past the Steelers have done a pretty good job at defending Lamar in the run game, which has forced him into passing situations, 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 9s, and that's where you can take advantage of the Ravens offensive line because they're not exactly great in pass pro. But if the Ravens consistently have good early down game script and are able to run the ball, that's going to set up Lamar to do all that he can in the passing game on top of hitting those deep shots to guys like Marquise Brown who have a speed advantage over the corners of the Steelers. So across the board, I think the Ravens have an ability here to bounce back offensively. On the flip side, the Steelers need to be able to run the ball to have any success on offense this year. And the fact that the Ravens have done a very good job defending the run, just look at the game versus the Browns last week. I think that Ben is going to be forced in too many uncomfortable situations. The ability to have a diverse attack on the passing attack for Pittsburgh has been a lot left to be desired there throughout the past 2 seasons. This season's been no different. It's basically fade down the right sideline to Chase Claypool or a short route to Deontay Johnson. And neither of those will be that effective versus a defensive coordinator in Don Martindale who's very good at diagnosing what you do in certain situations and taking those passing concepts away on top of sending diverse blitzes where you can get after a immobile Ben Roethlisberger. So I really like Don Martindale's defensive scheme versus this offensive attack. On top of Lamar to have a big bounce back spot after throwing 4 picks, I'm going to take the Ravens in this AFC North showdown to cover. My third best bet of the week and my third spread pick is the Minnesota Vikings -7 over the Detroit Lions. Now, this one was one I didn't initially think about, but then when I was doing my picks every week, which I do on Wednesdays, I was saying this just seems too low. The Minnesota Vikings, to me, are probably going to be the NFC team to take the 7 seed in the wild card and make the playoffs. I do feel they are deserving of that, and I do feel that they are a solid team, if not a pretty good one. And most of that has to do with their offense. Their offense can move the ball on just about any defense. They can run the ball. They can pass the ball. They've got 2 very talented wide receivers. They've got a pretty interesting third option in Conklin at tight end. I really like what what I've seen from either Cook or Madison in the running game, and without Dalvin Cook, this thing is kind of interesting because I feel like Mike Zimmer is a lot more pro early down run, but without his alpha running back, this might actually allow Kirk Cousins to be more pass happy and actually get after a very weak pass defense and secondary of the Lions that is one of the worst in the NFL. So if that's the case and they say, hey, we don't have Dalvin Cook, let's pass more, that might actually be a good thing for the Vikings in this game and good for you to cover this spread. But even if they decide to run, Alexander Mattison has proven that he can be a number one back and an effective one with the Vikings this year, last year, and in the past. So overall, this offense should be able to move the football consistently through what they want to do either way. On the flip side, the Vikings defense is beat up and they're not quite what they were early in the year. But I really like a Zimmer defense with a great scheme and ability to attack you through a multitude of different blitz packages. And Zimmer's always creative in that fashion to get after a Detroit Lions offense led by Jared Goff that is just very, very pathetic. I mean, honestly, Jared Goff is a check down king. He's not trying to strike down the field and attack the weakness of this defense, which is the corner position. And sure, can the Lions establish a little bit of a ground game? Maybe. But if the Vikings jump out ahead and they're still running the ball, that's just a real recipe for you to cover this bet. I could see the Lions getting a little bit on the ground going because the Vikings have been a little bit weak in that regard this year. But you would have to think that the Vikings will often force Jared Goff to throw the ball. And you have to also think that without DeAndre Swift, this might be a weaker rushing attack for the Detroit Lions. On top of Dan Campbell, who's possibly still calling the plays, who's been absolutely pathetic in that regard for the Detroit Lions. I like the Vikings here in an NFC North game, in a game that they can't really screw around and mess up. They have to win this game if they want to make the playoffs, and the Lions have no desire to win this game whatsoever. They played a close one early in the year versus Minnesota, but I think that was mostly due to Minnesota making some errors. I think Minnesota has a big win this year. They've mostly dominated this rivalry as of late, and I think that's what they'll do here in this game. My fourth best bet is Sunday Night Football. We have the Denver Broncos versus the Kansas City Chiefs. This game is actually flexed into Sunday Night Football, and I like the Broncos here plus the 10. I just think the Chiefs are not good enough, especially offensively at the moment. I know that sounds weird, but they're not exactly electric right now offensively at the moment to trust them to cover such a big number versus a pretty decent Broncos team in a divisional matchup between familiar opponents in a Sunday night primetime spot. I understand Arrowhead. I understand Mahomes, Reed, off a bye. I get it, but there's a couple things here. So first off, when you come to the bye point, teams off the bye this year and recently have been kind of sluggish coming out of the bye. The one that I really think of is Tampa Bay versus Washington. They were a similar team that was coming off a bye. We thought because of last year, the magical bye switch, that they would just dominate Washington and double point digit favorites and they would just destroy them. Well, they came out sluggish in the first quarter and the game got away from them quickly and they weren't quite able to recover. And a lot of that was due to their offense. Now, in this game, I think it could be similar where the Chiefs start out really slow. On top of, the Chiefs haven't been the Bucs offensively this year. Like, they've struggled versus many teams. The only game they've really been electric and electrifying the way that we are really used to seeing is versus a Raiders team that played a defensive scheme in the cover 3 match where that's just made for the Chiefs to destroy them. And they have traditionally, especially recently. So you look at other games and you say Dallas Cowboys defense that looked pathetic versus the Raiders held them to 19. The Packers defense with Jordan Love at quarterback held them to 14, I think. And in recent weeks, they still haven't been very good. So unless they just turn on the switch and say, whoa, we're back off the bye, then I don't really see the Chiefs just going gangbusters, especially versus a defense with Vic Fangio leading the way where he's done a good job versus the Chiefs recently. I remember a game very much like this last year that I think was on prime time, and the Broncos were some pretty big underdogs, but they ended up covering that game because their defense really did a good job versus Mahomes, containing him. They do a good job with their quarters coverage, a lot of 2 deep safeties. They kind of concede the run a little bit, and that's exactly how you're supposed to play the Chiefs. And with the Chiefs only really having 2 guys to stop in this offense, it makes it a lot easier for teams to cover them. And it's not like the Chiefs are willing to commit to the ground game in a power football fashion to dominate the Broncos in the way that you kind of have to attack this current Broncos defense. I look at this matchup and I say the Broncos have the secondary. They've got the coach on defense to make this one competitive on that side of the ball and maybe confuse Mahomes and make life difficult. On the flip side, they've got Teddy Bridgewater, who's not going to lose you a game. And he's also not going to lose you a bet. He's very good versus the spread, and the reason for that is he usually keeps games close even if he's not winning games for your team, right? They're going to run the ball successfully. The Broncos are low-key a good rushing attack. And then they've got a plethora of receivers where if the Chiefs do play man-to-man coverage, guys like Jerry Jeudy could create separation and get open. So I think the Broncos can make this one interesting. You know, a lot of people discounted them versus the Chargers. I think this is similar. This is just too many points in a divisional game where the Broncos have been playing well. They've been showing out, and I think there's a chance for them to show out on Sunday night and at least play the Chiefs close. I'm not saying they're going to win, but I think that the Chiefs coming off a bye, maybe a bit sluggish, their defense definitely playing better, but I'm not exactly convinced, and their offense certainly being a tad overrated at this moment. I think the Broncos are here to cover the double-digit spread. So give me the 10 points on Sunday night with Denver. My final spread pick is Monday Night Football, and I'm sticking with my team and the New England Patriots. The times that I have avoided taking my team, the Patriots, in recent weeks, I have been regretful because I knew it was going to happen. You know, I stuck with not just my heart, but also my brain, and taking New England has been smart, because I think they're underrated. And again, in this spot, I feel they're underrated. I think they're the better team on Monday Night Football. Is the game in Buffalo? Yes. Is it a primetime spot? The home team? Yes, but the home team's favored, you know, and that's the Buffalo Bills. And despite them playing worse over the last 5 to 6 to 7 weeks, if you compare the numbers, I mean, the two teams aren't even particularly close. If you actually look at DVOA, you know, you would think that the Buffalo Bills, the way that they're talked about, the way that really we think about them, they're the team with the better offense, right? Well, actually, you would be wrong. According to DVOA, the Patriots have been the more efficient offense. And if you watch the Patriots play, this is the area that they're most underrated. Their offense has been very, very effective and efficient. And Mac Jones last week versus a good Titans defense punted the ball once in that game. And they have consistently moved the ball. If teams try to stack the box to take away their power running game, Mac has proven that he can pick apart secondaries with a plethora of weapons. Josh McDaniels is really in his bag with his play calling right now. You always know that on Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football that the Patriots are going to run a trick play or two to get a key advantage in a certain area. You know it's coming. The defense is absolutely the best in football, and their pass rush has an opportunity here to really make a statement, because the Buffalo Bills have had games where they have really been stagnant offensively. When Josh Allen isn't on, you know, this year his accuracy has taken a little bit of a hit. When he's been under pressure with a 4-man rush, it's been a problem because that allows teams to cover and still get pressure on a quarterback, right? It's challenging for any offense, any quarterback. When you got a 4-man rush that's successful, it's difficult. And the Bills have had many games this year, the Steelers in week 1, the Jaguars game. In games that they have lost, the 4-man rush for the opposing team has gotten to Allen and made life difficult and made him throw the ball quicker than usual. Allen could also see a defensive scheme in Belichick that is very good at confusing quarterbacks, at throwing a plethora of coverages at you, at taking away what you want to go to most, which is probably going to be Stephon Diggs, and forcing you in other areas. And they're going to be smart the way that they play it. They're not going to let Josh Allen run around with his head cut off and throw the ball sidearm, running to his right. They're going to force him to do something left-handed that he doesn't want to do. The Buffalo Bills are a team that don't want to run the ball. And the Patriots do have a solid run defense. That's not really the concern. The advantage for New England is that, okay, now you just have Belichick worrying about one area of your offense. Good luck with that. Plus, the forecast suggests there might be some rain or some snow, which I think would favor the Patriots, who have a better rushing attack, a better offensive line, and better run defense. And I just feel like New England overall is the team here that is the better overall team. When you compare both teams, New England doesn't have any weaknesses, right? Buffalo clearly has shown weaknesses. On top of that, they're missing arguably their most important defensive player in Tre'Davious White for the first time this year. So that's going to really throw in a wrench of how do you possibly defend New England, because are you going to leave some of your backup corners now on an island versus some of these receivers? I know they're not big names, but Kendrick Bourne's been playing really well. Jacoby Myers can get open. Nelson Aguilar's got some speed. So if they try to play more heavy in the box and take away the run, then they're going to open up that passing attack for Mac Jones. If they don't play the run, New England's going to control the game, control the clock, and win the game that way. So it's just a very diverse, versatile team, and I think the Bills lack that versatility. And that's why I'm going to take New England here as the underdog plus the 3 points on Monday night, which should be a great game. So those are my 5 picks for the spread this week. In terms of my teaser, if you miss out on New England, because there's a possibility that the spread moves towards New England and it becomes 2.5 or 2, what you could do in this case is I will include New England in my teaser of the week. So I would take New England if you can get 3. If you can't get 3, I would put them in a teaser, right? 2.5 or even 3, then you get 8.5 or 9. If you got 2, then you get 8. So overall, this game should be a 1-score game either way. I think New England's going to keep this one close even if they lose. So put them in a teaser. That would make it 8, 8.5, or 9. And then on the other hand, what's the other teaser leg? Well, I like Washington plus the 2.5. You add on the 6-point teaser. That's 8.5. That's covering 1 score. In Las Vegas, I think Washington has been playing better football. I wouldn't be surprised if Vegas won by any means, but I've been really impressed by the way that Washington's defense has turned the corner, on top of the way Tyler Heineke, I can never say his name right, and the rushing attack is controlling pace of play, converting third downs, and making life difficult by controlling the clock, which might also mean the score is lower, which also means that potentially that 8.5 points comes in handy. So I like Washington and New England in the teaser of the week. There you have it, guys. Those are my best bets for week 13. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to Gronk spike that like button, subscribe to the channel, and good luck this week. Peace.